guys, Asher coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. Send us some positive vibes your way, especially if you need it. Today, much love to you guys. I'm excited. I'm in a good mood. I've been, it's not my weekend. I'm stammering and stumbling all over the place here. And the crazy thing is I could just start re-recording the video because I'm only 10 seconds in, but I'm not going to because I want to be raw with you guys.
Boo! Weird.
And that came out weird too. I'm in a weird mood today, guys. How you doing? Welcome. We're going to talk about PVE versus PvP strategy and all the differences when building a champion. But first off, I want to just have a proud papa moment here. I don't have my son this weekend. I normally don't, but I do because it's his mom's birthday, so I get to take him a little bit. And we just finished our first ever, our first ever would be a little embarrassing, his first ever chapter book. So we're pumped. We're gonna go buy the rest of the series. Reminds me of the good old days, you know. Actually, me growing up, I was such a fan of like teachers or my parent reading to me. I loved listening and imagining books, you know, and I think that stayed with me tremendously my entire life. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, but the magic and the beauty of audiobooks and podcasts, oof.
Should I be concerned?
For the last 30, 40 years, really close to, I pretty much listen to stuff nonstop, you know, when I'm driving, when I'm at the gym, when I'm, you know, just going downstairs to get some lunch or whatever. I'm an audiophile, man. And, you know, I say all that to say, give me some recommendations, man. Any book out there. I love nonfiction, but I can go for a little bit of fiction too. I can go for a little sci-fi, fantasy, maybe a thriller here and there. Historical fiction, I'm a big fan of. Anyway, I would love your recommendations, guys. Anyway, let's digress back to Raid Shadow Legends today. I get this a lot, right? You know, tell me about how to build a champion, depending on where I'm going to use the champion. Now, PvE and PvP, those are two umbrella statements that mean a lot, right? Because there's no certain way you ought to build the champion for PvE. By the way, PvE, player versus environment, is going to be everything in the game that's not arena, essentially, right? Even though you could argue arena right now, before live arena, isn't really true PvP because you're going against the AI of the computer, essentially, right? Because they're not, you know, on the other side playing against you. But for the sakes of today's video, though, we're going to call arena PvP. We're going to call everything else PvE. Now, everything else, is a lot, right? We got all the dungeons, we got clan boss, we got Hydra clan boss. It's gonna be a bunch of different builds and a bunch of different artifact sets and ways that you're gonna be wanting to build your champions depending on the team you're using them with. So there are no hard and fast rules. The second kind of disclaimer, guys, is we don't all have the luxury all the time, whether you're beginner, whether you're free to play, whether you're a spender, of running every champion specifically only for one area of the game. Sometimes we have to meet in the middle and come up with a kind of a hybrid build because we're not going to be swapping our gear every time we want to jump in the arena and jump. Like if you're running Trunda in the arena in Spider or something, you're not going to want to re-equip her, so you're going to have to find a happy medium. But with all that said, I still want to give you the practices that I use and the differences on a few different builds. We're going to use some example champions as well as we go through this video. So hopefully it gets you guys thinking about key masteries, key artifact stats, and maybe some stat thresholds that you ought to be thinking about depending on where you're using champions. So let's go ahead and start out in the arena. And I hope this is a good way of doing the video. But what I did was I just put together a few champions here in UDK, in Anithwi Blood Twin, and Madame Ceres to give you some examples of how I have them built for the arena, and if I was going to use them mainly in other areas of the game, how it would change their stats and their gear and their masteries and their builds. And then we'll talk maybe about a couple other champions as well. We'll look at maybe a couple PvE build champions and how it would change them for the arena. So let's go ahead and start things out here, guys. I'm just going to start this battle. This is the worst team. Not the worst team ever, but they make no sense together, really. I'm going to keep these champions. I just want to get them at the top of my recently used champions. I'm lazy. What do you want from me? And it's let them have it, baby. Okay, or get True Fear and die. Or UDK can save the team. I'm not intending for this to be more than a 20-second battle. Okay, come on. Okay, I'm done. I just want to get them recently used. I should have done this ahead of time. I'm a mediocre YouTuber at best. What do you expect? Let's go to the recently used first. We did all that, wasting a minute of your time. No big deal, guys. At least, you know, at least we're having fun. Are we? And let's start with Madame Ceres, right? Madame Ceres, a great debuffer in this game. We're primarily using her as, well, obviously our debuffer. She's removing buffs. She's got a decreased attack. She's got a decreased defense. Now, in the arena, the first thing you need to know about the arena is too much accuracy is not really a thing. You know, not really a thing in the arena. You can get as much accuracy as humanly possible on your debuffer or your buff stripper, a Kaimar's A2, a Cornelia's A2 or A3 ability, anything removing buffs from anybody, putting them to sleep, CCing, stunning, all of that stuff. There's no max, sky's the limit. So on this build, we have 700 on the dot accuracy. 700 accuracy on Madame Ceres. We don't need 700 accuracy for any PVE area inside the entire game. We should get by with like 400 accuracy. You know, we should be able to get by with 400 accuracy, maybe 500 if we wanted to push it against like, you know, floor 10 hard or, you know, the whatever, Iron Twins last level, but still 700 is way too much, right? So what would we change if we weren't going to use, maybe Madame Ceres, maybe I got, you know, maybe I want to shift my strategy. I didn't want to go first team anymore in the arena, and I wanted to use Madame Ceres for dungeons now, and I wanted to use Ryan the Conjurer or something for a reviver for my buff remover, right, in my debuffer in the arena. Or if I was just building Madame Ceres for PvE, right? What I would do is first off, sacrifice some accuracy for survivability if she's dying, okay? Meaning, if I need a little bit more survivability on Madame Ceres in the arena, like hopefully on a fast Madame Ceres team, hopefully she's not dying at all, right? We're going first, we're killing everybody, and then we're on to the next battle, farming her Great Hall, right? But if she's dying in PvE in areas of the dungeons, Doom Tower, whatever, I'm gonna take away this accuracy banner, certainly, right? And I'm gonna add a defense banner. I'm gonna add an HP banner. I'm gonna add more survivability. You might tell me, Ash, but wait a second here, man. She's not dying for me. She's not dying. She's living every time and every dungeon. Who cares?
I don't love you anymore.
Doesn't matter. I love you.
Too late.
Well, then build a little bit of damage out of her. This is how you min-max your teams and your champions, right? You try to get the most out of them depending on the team around them, depending on where you are in the game, right? So what I would do, the first things first, right, is I would take off this banner, replace it with probably HP or defense, give her a little bit more survivability, right? Most importantly, I would go to the masteries here. What do we have right now? We have defense tree and we have Eagle Eye as our tier 6. So I want to get some damage out of this champion. There's a very easy way to do it. Get rid of the defense tree, right? And go offense instead and end with War Master instead of Eagle Eye. I'm going to get a few 100,000 damage out of dungeon battles of War Master, probably a couple million damage, depending on obviously your team and difficulty against the Hydra Clan Boss. With War Master alone against Clan Boss, it's going to add a lot of damage to my team without having to even change anything really in terms of gear, right? So that's an easy one. I'm going to go War Master. I don't need 700 accuracy for PvE. 650 is just fine, you know? I'm still going to go support tree because I still want to make sure I land Master Hexter importantly and Lore of Steel because we're probably going to run her in perception and accuracy sets. So that's the big difference, right, from a debuffer, right? It's pretty basic, but that's a big one, right? And, you know, speed, she's very fast for the arena, 270. I don't need her quite that fast, but I think it's still good to have your debuffer pretty dang fast, right? Keep those debuffs as up as often as possible. So that's a debuffer. Those are the things I would change on a Madame Ceres, right? What does she have on the chest right now? You can even put, you know, you don't even need triple perception on her for PvE. You might want to put immunity or something like that if she's being CC'd on a Doom Tower wave or something like that, right? We have accuracy on the chest as another one. We don't need accuracy on the chest. We can sacrifice 96 accuracy and even the 50 off Eagle Eye, and we're going to be A-okay. We're going to be just fine, you know? We're going to be just fine. So we can put defense percentage. Heck, we could even put attack percentage if we wanted to, if she's staying alive, and put crit rate or something on the gauntlets. I wouldn't recommend that on Madame Ceres, but still, we can look at all our substats too. We can kind of re-gear a little bit to make her even faster, right? Prioritize speed over extra accuracy. So those are some things to think about. On our Ultimate Death Knight. Now this build is a classic UDK build for the arena, right? He's super slow. We want him as slow as humanly possible. And the cool thing here too is this also applies to revivers in the arena, right? In Stone Skin, I should say. Revivers in Stone Skin. So maybe a champion like Cardinal, right? A champion that you just want to go last, stay alive as long as possible, ergo keeping that Stone Skin on as long as possible, aka we want her slow, right? Slow. Reviver's slow with a lot of resistance, a lot of defense right now in the meta. Now, of course, I want to be fair here and give the disclaimer. You might have an Arbiter Reviver on a fast go first team, and you don't want her slow. I'm talking about Stone Skin build for a go second Reviver team, which is really popular in the meta right now. It would look like this, right? a lot of resistance, very slow, 6P stone skin, a lot of defense, a lot of HP, right? Masteries wise, you can see the masteries on here as well. We come down here on the defense tree, we pick up Unshakable for extra resistance. We pick up extra HP, as tanky as possible. We have improved parry, decrease the damage received by this champion by 8% when this champion is hit with a critical hit. In PVE content, most bosses only have about a 15% crit rate. So while improved parry is helpful still, if there's a critical hit, blast proof is generally preferable. 5% less damage on all AoE attacks, right? So again, nothing wrong with going with improved parry, but a little bit better probably to go with blast proof. Same thing on the resistance. We might not need 500, 600, 700 resistance. Maybe we sacrifice some of that resistance, which you don't need that high outside of the arena, for a little bit more survivability on the defense or HP, right? On Selfless Defender, decrease the damage an ally receives from the first enemy hit in each round by 20%. This champion will receive that damage instead. It's not a bad mastery, and sure, you can get utility off the first hit in PvE content, but is it as necessary as it is in the arena to have this? On the very first hit, 20% damage mitigation? No, because in Stone Skin, he's not even gonna be taking any damage, but he's gonna be sucking up that 20% from everybody else, right? So again, in this particular build, it makes a lot of sense, but we could do things a lot differently and take advantage of other masteries in a PvE build, in a PvE setting, right? We might not even need to go with Unshakable. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't in PvE unless I really needed to meet a certain resistance threshold, right? Instead, hey, maybe I go Bulwark, decrease the damage all allies receive by 5%, and that's gonna be active everywhere, not just on the first hit. So again, a lot of different masteries to supplement wherever I'm using him, and to complement, I should say, wherever I'm using this champion. So again, I might even not go, well, I probably want to go support, but I might go War Master if I just want extra damage. If I'm soloing content with Ultimate Death Knight, I'm probably going to want War Master to do extra damage, or I'm going to want a Toxic set on this champion, a Toxic set on Ultimate Death Knight for poisons for extra damage against bosses. I would never want that in the arena, right? What is a weak version of poison going to do?
Oh, you got me, partner.
Nothing. So I don't want it. Also, I don't want him this slow. I want him a lot faster, right? So whether he's going to be supporting a team or whether he's going to be in a solo build, I don't want him built this way is what I'm trying to say, right? Stone Skin for me, sure, it can be handy in some areas of PvE, and you get nice stat bonuses, 30% defense, 40 resistance, 8% HP on top of the Stone Skin. It's all nice to have, don't get me wrong, and you could certainly run a hybrid, keep him in Stone Skin, speed him up a little bit, change the masteries, and still use him in the arena, and still have great effectiveness. But this is a great arena build. Again, we don't care about his speed, we want it as slow as possible. We care about resistance, survivability in the arena. We'd actually like that defense a lot higher too on this build. But again, we're gonna really rethink and redo things quite a bit if we're using him in a hybrid build or for PvE content. We don't want them that slow, you know? On our nuker, we have a Go Second and Nithwi Blood Twin, right? Very powerful champion. His total stats here are pretty respectable. 8,225 attack. If I had to be critical of this, I would get rid of some of that attack and bolster up the crit damage a little bit more, right? Because crit damage scales a lot better after around 65, 7,000 on the attack. Either way, that's very high on the attack. Very slow speed again, because he is going to be protected, how I use him, by a Necrit the Great, or by somebody who can keep him alive, by a bolster set, by a big shield. His job is to stay alive, have a block debuff champion going ahead of him, and it's really, you know, he's built to complement, again, the team that he is on in the arena, what I'm trying to do. Now, I have attack percentage on his boots. Really the only area, unless I have God tier gear with a lot of speed on it, the only area that I want to be running attack percentage on my boots is Campaign Farmer. On your Campaign Farmer, you don't need to have them that fast. So yes, run attack percentage on your Fellhound, run attack percentage on your Queen Ava, run attack percentage on your Kale or Elhain or Galek or your starter, Aethel. But In Arena, I love running attack percentage, especially if I can CC the enemies before they go because they're so slow, or if I just have a really strong go second team that, you know, protection on this ally. So another example would be if I have like a Prince Kymar setting up in the 3 Blood Twin, he can go in there and CC, put everybody to sleep, or a Yakarl, right? Freeze them all, and then it doesn't necessarily matter how slow my nuker is because they missed their turn anyway, okay? That's an important, obviously, dynamic here because we can't just have a slow nuker with no game plan. But I say all that to say attack percentage on the boots, fantastic for the arena. Really maximize that damage, right? But let me show you a champion that I only use, a champion who's a beast, by the way, in the arena, but a champion that I only use in PvE content, a nuker. It's Cupidus.
It's my time to shine.
Actually, you know what? Before I go to Cupidus, let me show you the masteries here as well, because they're going to be a lot different as well. So these are my favorite nuker masteries on Into 3 Blood Twin. Let me push all the way over here. We go down, we pick up Retribution. We really want those counterattacks, especially with the block revive on every move, right? We want Ruthless Ambush. Increased damage inflicted by 8% on the first hit on each enemy. First hit on each enemy is, it's a nice to have, I guess, for PvE content, but it's a must have for your nuker in the arena. Because if your nuker in the arena is doing their job, you're probably killing everybody in one shot, you know? So I love that. I love Opportunist. Again, if we're setting up with a Sleep, a Cornelia, a Kymar, extra 12% damage. Sign me up. And then, of course, Helm Smasher. Helm Smasher, as a general rule, for the most part, there's exceptions to every rule, but as a general rule, Helm Smasher is going to be great when you're fighting champions. When you're fighting bosses, we want War Master or Giant Slayer. Giant Slayer, if there are 3 or more hits on the A1, in most cases. In War Master, if there are 1 or 2 hits on their A1 ability, okay? For Flawless Execution, 20% more crit damage, I would use this on my enemy max HP nukers, like a Royal Guard, like a Husk, for example. But that's pretty much, for me, that's the only time I would use Flawless Execution. So I would have a much different offensive, is what I'm trying to say. I would probably go with Life Drinker. Heals by 5% of the damage inflicted when attacking with 50% HP or less. Especially against Hydra, you can get big, big heals when you need it the most, right? I would go with War Master on Into 3 Blood Twin if I was running him against Hydra or against Clan Boss, right? Extra damage off of that War Master. It's going to mean a lot more than Helm Smasher, which I would reserve for other champions, aka Waves and Doom Tower, aka the Arena PvE content. So that would be what I would change, certainly, for a champion like Anithwi. Now, also, his accuracy is fairly low at 204. I might want to take advantage of that leech. His leech over here. So I would bump that accuracy up quite a bit as well, not to mention put speed on the boots there. So I'd sacrifice some of that damage. I'd get some speed, maybe a little bit more survivability too, and that brings me to my next point. On your nukers in PvE content, you need them to be able to take a hit. Do I have a nuker who I build, I have Ninja. Okay, so here's a good example. Ninja is in a solo build right now. It's a duo build, actually, for Sand Devil. But this is not what I certainly would use for Ninja in the arena, right? I have a lot of HP. I have a lot of defense. Not concerned so much with the crit rate. A lot of accuracy, a decent amount of accuracy, you know, for PvE, plenty at 490. And a lot of speed, right? This is not a nuker build, but Ninja's kind of, sort of a nuker, right? But instead, I am focused here, and I do have the Eagle Eye for the accuracy for Sand Devil 24, but even that, I might want to switch it up for like War Master, right? But either way, guys, he has Brimstone anyway, right? Either way, I guess my point is, do not be afraid in PvE content, in dungeons. If it takes you a little bit longer, don't be afraid to put HP percentage on your nuker champion. Don't be afraid to go defense percentage on your gauntlets or on your, well, maybe you still want crit rate or crit damage on most cases on gauntlets, unless it's like a burner or something like that. But don't be afraid to go HP even on your nuker, your crit damage nuker, or defense on your ring and your amulet. These flat stats on your accessories, that's really important, guys, because oftentimes the base defense on these champions, 16 and 947, are so low that percentage stats, as we normally talk about so, you know, highly here, reverently on the channel, they're not going to matter as much, as effective, because our base HP and our base defense are so low, so we can take advantage of the accessories instead, right? We can get some HP and some defense flat stats there, and that's going to really help us stay alive. So staying alive is incredibly important, but in PvE, oftentimes you have to build your nuker, right? A little bit more hardier. The last champion, I wanted to show you Cupidus before I let you guys go here. just a really quick take a look at a champion that, again, something that I totally switched up. And where are you? Okay, here he is. Totally switched. I used to have him in Savage Gear and crit damage, but now I'm only using him for Hydra, and I used to have a Helm Smasher. So this is a good opposite of an Ithwi Blood Twin. Now we're going with War Master, guys. We're going with War Master instead. And I took the Savage Gear off of him for against boss battles, and now I have him Relentless. I want more turns from this champion, right? And I have more survivability, 53k, 2100, and I sacrifice, obviously, a lot of attack and a little bit of crit damage, crit rate, right? But I want to make sure that he's going as often as possible over these longer battles. He's going to deal more damage. Finally, I'll show you one more champion really quickly before I let you guys go. Again, I hope this gets you thinking about different ways to build champions depending on where you're using them. And where is Mighty Uko? Because that's a champion that it's difficult to build hybrids on some of these, right? Mighty Uko right now is in a hybrid build. I wanted to give you an example of this before I let you guys go. It's a 4-piece, so I can still use him in the arena, and I have a fast build, but I primarily use him in Hydra Clan Boss. So you have to kind of make decisions here. If I build him with 100% crit rate with the AoE on the A1 and an AoE on the A2 ability, he can actually deal some sneaky damage, right? But I also wanted to build him with, a little bit of accuracy, so he's actually removing all of those buffs. Again, we can never have too much accuracy inside the arena. So this is more of an arena build on Mighty Uko, but hey, I might want a little bit more damage. I might be able to sacrifice a little bit of accuracy, and I might be able to get away with that War Master on Mighty Uko. So again, guys, sometimes you have to make these difficult decisions and come up with the best option you can for a hybrid on a champion. But I thought I'd share this video to hopefully help a few of you guys out, things to think about when you're building a champion depending on where you're using them. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.